a lot of us are, working people. We have families that we're looking for solutions for how to raise them, or, how to interact with them properly, or how to empower them. And we try to just kind of pull in some ideas that we thought about here. So talk to me about maybe a practical application of it, or a takeaway that we have from this lesson of how Cooper and the team navigate this crisis on Miller's planet.
Right. And so one of the things we like about this framework on Wonder Tours, right, is the analogies, right? And one of the standard practical applications is just try to figure out, if you're in a situation, look at it through this lens and see if it scans, right? Is there a giant wave? Did I just learn about a crisis? Like this is one of those giant wave situations where swift action is important, right? Or we have a problem. Do I recognize the behaviors of some of my team members, right? Is somebody frozen? Is somebody carrying on doing the job that was the original job that may no longer be the most priority or the relevant? Is there somebody on the team that can do something that I can't, that might help? Right? You can look for these archetypes, right? So, what we see Cooper doing, exactly as you said, is right. He recognizes that a hard decision needs to be made quickly, and isn't afraid to just like decide on behalf of the team, right? He looks for opportunities to get the team moving, to give assignments out, to try to solve one sub problem at a time and figure out how to do as many things as possible. And he uses the stress, he uses the impending threat as motivation rather than as a hindrance, right? So those are all things that we can all do, right? Those are all things that we can look for. I'm sitting in a meeting and somebody brings up a big problem. I can look at that and decide how pressing it is. And depending on how pressing it is, how quickly I need to make a decision and what my available options might be, and look around at the resources and the team and see, maybe I might recognize that, I'm freezing here. Like, I spent the last 10 minutes freaking out and that's not helping anybody. I'm just standing outside the back of the ship while the wave rolls on us, right? I might not be the leader that I wanted to be in that moment. And I can look at that too.
That's really good. I think what you just figured out there about the personas in a crisis, look for different personas, try to figure out who is freezing up, try to figure out who is an ostrich with their head in the ground, just like, nope, there's nothing going on here. Try to figure out who is mobilized, but maybe not integrated to an overall strategy. And then also, as we're talking about how humans interact with machines, understand that machines have a unique advantage in a crisis because they don't have emotions. So you can drive the machine to do something very quickly and very reliably, as long as there's very clear directive given to the machine. So the machine can allow you, in combination with those other personas, to get unstuck, because the crisis, inherently at the beginning of a crisis, you're stuck in some hole, basically, of some kind, probably not of your own making even usually, but you have to figure out, what do we do next? It's like, well, you have to get unstuck. And the machines, the data, all that, the models, they can help you to get unstuck. They're not the answer. If somebody's preaching, all we need is a predictive model to solve this problem, then I'm usually skeptical of that as a solution. But you do have this idea that recognition that we are in a crisis of some kind. It doesn't have to be life-threatening like it is in Interstellar right here on the planet, or literally existence-threatening. But to be able to then move forward and get unstuck requires the identification of those personas, what they're going through emotionally, and how to partner them best with machines in order to move forward.
And the only thing I wanted to add maybe was, as just calling back to what you said earlier about purpose, right, is that one of the recognitions in that moment is that, the most important purpose right now may have shifted. Right? It may not be, we really need to get the data off this planet anymore. Like, that might not be the most important thing, or we need to get this planet ready to colonize. Like, okay, those are gone. That's not a thing anymore, right? The purpose now is get the spaceship in the air. Let's get out of here, right? Then the super higher level purpose maybe didn't change, but you can't really work on that right this very second. We're in survival mode, or we're in recovery mode, or we're in solve this one problem mode. And so that's another thing, is to understand that you might have these layered purposes, and that you need to recognize which one you're working on right now and how it relates to the other purposes. And you may have to pivot. You may have to identify that some things need to be left behind for the moment or permanently, depending on what you've learned.
Wow, that's brilliant. As always with Wonder Tour, we end up picking up things along the way that we didn't really plan for or didn't assume going in. We might have seen Interstellar a dozen times. I personally have. but
Yes.
haven't been able to pick these things up before. But by going through this journey, by, we sometimes call this middle moment here the mountaintop, where we go and we focus on one moment and try to figure out, what does it say about the whole terrain? What does it say about the journey that we're going on? And it those moments are never the whole journey, but they do allow us to see the journey through a certain lens, which allows us to kind of better orient ourselves to the model for how we can be good leaders, how we can embody heroic character, things like that.
Right. And the reason that this works, the reason that you can look at a movie about space exploration and derive leadership lessons, right, is because as humans we're primed to look for archetypes and analogies. We're primed to look for these examples, but that includes the people who wrote and filmed these movies, right? Is they put into this what they saw as the greatest leaders they've ever worked with, or they put into this what they saw as the archetypes of history that were the ones that have been looked up to, right? And so these stories resonate not just because they're fun to watch as stories, but also because the human conversations about what does that look like, have a lot of repetition to them, right? Have a lot of common elements, and this is a good way for us to sort of digest them because it's like you said, it's really easy for me to picture like right now in this moment, am I being Luke Skywalker, right? Am I being Cooper and I'm making a decision, or am I standing behind the spaceship freaking out about the giant wave, right? It's very easy for me to zoom out just far enough to ask myself which one of those things I'm doing, right? That's easier than like which of the 7 leadership books that I've read, which paragraph would point me in the direction of what I should do right now. It's like, anyway, am I standing up behind the spaceship freaking out? That's probably not the right response here.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that narrative really drives us as humans. I've heard it said by psychologists that your mindset, while it is very practically mechanical, essentially, it operates kind of like a process, a way for you to filter how you're going to respond to things around
Mm-hmm.
you. You experience it very narratively.
Right.
So you build it and you
Yeah. You
understand
tell
it
yourself,
narratively.
yeah, you're constantly reframing it in terms of, oh, this is the story that I'm in. Oh, this is the story of my situation, right? These are, you whittle down the facts so it looks like it's got some sort of continuity. And so, yeah, but you can do the same thing projecting forward, right? You can freak out, or you can get paralyzed by the future, or you can construct the story and say, all right, I'm going to decide to be Cooper in this situation, or I'm going to decide to be Murph in this situation, or one of the other characters from this, and like, okay, this is the path forward. This is what's going to be required.